Get ready for a beautiful journey. It's Friends Day Fridays on Tea Time with Afternoon Social. We're steeping tales of fun stuff from adventure stories to tips and advice, one cup at a time. So grab your favorite tea, snuggle into your coziest nook, and join our terrific party. Good afternoon and welcome back to Tea Time with Afternoon Social. And today we have our wonderful guest, Dr. Jen Harrison, who's a dissertation coach. And she's actually one of my special guests because today's episode is my 100th episode. So she gets to be a part of that. But she's coached and supervised first generation ESL and non-traditional students in the UK and USA for over 10 years. And she offers support in writing, research design, motivation, and research methods. And she specializes in helping people achieve their dissertation and career goals. But today here on Friends Day Fridays, she's going to share with us her story about ADHD and multiracial parenting and the challenges of that. And she just, it's both her children and her husband who have ADHD. So she's got a house full of that. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Dr. Jen, and you can kind of share with us your story about all that challenging life you have.
Well, challenging but also quite rewarding and teaches you a lot as well. So anyone who listened to the last episode will know that I'm also a teacher. I'm a teacher and an instructor, and I kind of spend my life helping people get organized, get the work done. What a lot of my students don't realize until they start working with me is that the top place that I get this training is with my two boys and my husband. So my two boys both have ADHD, and their ADHD takes very different forms. And then my husband has it as well. So I was just saying to you before the episode started, mornings in our house are absolutely phenomenal. There's a lot of, put your socks on. I told you to go get your socks. Have you got your socks? Okay, you've only got one sock. Please go and get the other sock. The bus is in 5 minutes. Can we please get socks? Etc. I think what a lot of people don't realize with ADHD, though, is that it comes with some really unique strengths as well. Mm-hmm. And this is, seeing it in my own family, learning how to manage it in my own family, it's been really important because what I've realized is probably about 85% of the students that come to work with me also have ADHD, often undiagnosed. They may be aware that there is a reason they don't function the way other students do and that they're struggling, but they don't necessarily understand why, or if they do know why, they still don't know what they're supposed to do about it. And there is very much an expectation in society and in academia that you just get on with it. You do what you need to do. If you can't do it, then you're not working hard enough. You're some kind of failure. And obviously, when you've got two small boys, my boys are 8 and 10, so very different attitude. You don't tell your children that they are failures because they're not getting something done. You work out how to support them and prop them up. And so I think a lot of adults need that language as well. And certainly my husband does. Mm-hmm. That was a learning curve in our marriage, was going from, why are you so useless? Why can you never get anything done? To, you're not doing this to be a pain in the ass. You just need a different approach before you can do this. And so we're kind of all learning as a family, like how to navigate this very different way of thinking and processing and working that three members have and one does not. So in some ways, I'm the minority in my family. I'm the one who doesn't think the way everybody else does.
This makes you unique.
You're all unique. Cats have it as well.
Yeah. No. And putting in systems in place has probably helped a lot to managing it.
Getting a lot of outside help. So I don't think any of us knew what ADHD was until my oldest son was diagnosed. And it was once he was diagnosed that we started realizing, the little one has it as well. And the pediatrician actually said to my husband, by the way, you've got this too. And he was like, no, I don't. She said, yes, you do. And so we realized he had it. We realized, other members of the family had it. We started to see where it had come from, how it had kind of traveled through our family genetics, and on both sides of the family. Some of our poor children have got it from everywhere. So I think there's a lot of information that you don't necessarily get unless you're in the right place at the right time, in the right generation, with the right set of people advising you. We could have gone on, if we hadn't had children, we could have gone on for years not knowing that my husband had this condition and probably getting more and more frustrated with each other.
Right, because people think that he's just difficult and
yes,
wants to be obstinate or whatever. But
obstinate or lazy or don't care or
right.
Whereas once you realize, oh, well, if I write it down for him, or if I give him a reminder every morning, and then, oh, okay, and then you start to recognize the strengths as well, because I think it's classified officially as a disability, but a lot of the research I have seen suggests that it comes with its own benefits. It's just that those are not necessarily recognized in our society. So things like hyperfocus, what I would call stubbornness in my youngest, but it's hyperfocus. It's that determination to get something done. Creativity, a different way of thinking about things.
Right. And that's my oldest son has PDNOS, so high functioning autism. So teaching him, you had to learn to come in a different door.
Yes.
To communicate with him. But once you got into the right door in his brain, you find out how intelligent he was. Yeah, very, very intelligent. But he just can't get it out. So I'm sure that's frustrating when you're trying to communicate with your family. It's like, what are you trying to tell me?
But I think what you learn is to help them advocate for themselves with other people. You as a parent go through that work, or as a spouse, you go through that work of learning and understanding and adapting. But you have that awareness all the time that the rest of the world isn't going to do that. And so part of it is teaching the children, teaching sometimes my husband, this you have to ask for what you need. You have to explain that you think differently. You have to, invite people to see you as what you are.
Right. And now you throw in mixed race.
Yes, so this is interesting.
How's this dynamic work?
So this is an interesting one. Yeah. So obviously you can see that I am West Indian. My husband is very white English. He's English through and through, Anglo-Saxon down to the bone. He found it very difficult when we first moved over here. Me and my family, we very much had an awareness of the fact that we were colored. My husband hasn't got a prejudiced bone in his body. He is so-called colorblind.
Right.
Which meant that he found it very difficult to acknowledge that everybody else might not be. And so he was not inclined to take fear or discrimination or prejudice seriously. He'd never had to deal with it himself. He couldn't fathom that it might apply to his children. He couldn't really understand that it might apply to me or my family. And so that's been a really interesting challenge, because we have this need to teach the boys who they are, to be proud of what they are, what it means to have these two different heritages. And they're quite different heritages. To give them choice. So my family are Muslim. My husband's family are Church of England, and both are quite devout on each side. Me and my husband are not either of those things. And there's, that need for the boys to understand both of those heritages, but not necessarily have to pick or choose or embrace, but just know that they're there and part of who they are.
Right.
Helping them
make their own choice. Yeah.
Yeah, and helping them to navigate. They have accents. They are a certain color. In school, they meet other children with different accents and different colors, and they want to know where they fit in amongst all of that. And so giving them the information to be able to explain, that can be quite tricky, especially when they're little and they don't have the language yet.
Are they having any of these issues now with all the unrest going on with Israel and things like that going on right now? Are they having issues at school with that?
They have not mentioned having any issues with that at the school. I hope they would mention if they were.
Mm-hmm.
My youngest is very interested in military history, which is strange for an 8-year-old, but he is. And so he is full of questions about what is going on in Israel. And my husband is a military historian and so often shares what he's reading in the media with my son. So they have some quite in-depth conversations. But I don't know that I think most of his friends at school tend to tune him out because he's talking about military history and they want to talk about Lego.
Right. Yeah. Probably most of the kids who've been going to school with, they understand Indian and not Israeli or anything else. But some people don't know the distinction between all of that. They end up with it.
Yes, and I think that's been a struggle for them. Not necessarily with this conflict, but they've definitely described having to explain to their friends, well, I'm not Hispanic, even though I might look a little bit Hispanic. Actually, I'm this thing, but that's not Indian, that's West Indian.
Right, because a lot of people don't understand all the differences, even though the color maybe, they're all different backgrounds.
And nuances, yeah.
Yeah, because of the multicultural stuff going on, and so just by looking at them, they might be like, "Oh, you're from the Middle East, so we're gonna treat you differently." Yeah, and they're really not.
Yes, it was certainly something that I experienced when I was a teenager because I was a teenager in the United States during the fallout from 9/11, and again, you've got brown skin, you're probably an Arab. Or you're probably a Muslim, or without ever having any understanding of what that might mean.
Right, and they don't want to get to know you. So I could see where that would be challenging with them having ADHD on top of it.
Yes.
I'm sure that's a major dynamic all the time too. But yes, you explain who you are, but you don't have to all the time.
Yeah, I think it's something that they will learn to navigate for themselves. But it's also something that I'm very aware of because most of the students that I work with as well are people of color who are struggling with racism and the lack of equity in their programs and in their institutions. And so I'm very aware of what my boys might face as they go through life, and not necessarily certain about how I can equip them so that they don't end up in those difficulties later on.
Right. And hopefully it's going to be changing, so by the time they're adults, they don't have as bad of a time.
I hope so. I mean, for my generation, there wasn't any awareness at all. Now I think for the current generation, there's awareness and a lot of anger, but not necessarily the change and the progress. But there's at least awareness of what is wrong, that something is wrong. And so I'm hoping that by the time my kids have reached that age, we'll have moved on from anger to actual action.
Right. And everything being virtual now and getting to talk to people around the world, and that internet, I think, is starting to help break down some of those barriers. We're not caught in our own little bubble in our own little communities.
Indeed, yes.
It takes away some of that fear and anxiety of who is that from across the world to get to really know them.
I hope so, because the other danger there is that when you are separated from someone by a screen or by a keyboard, you are maybe less sensitive and less inclined to connect on a real level. So I think that could go both ways.
Could go either way, yeah. and of course, you always have to be careful on the safety side. You don't know if they're telling you the truth, and we always have to be careful of that and watch out for that. I know I never grew up on, they didn't even have a computer in my high school when I graduated. I think we had one, and they put it in the manager's closet, and only honor students could use it.
Yeah, whereas I remember being taught how to use a word processor. And these days, I'm teaching my dissertation students how to use a word processor because it's now assumed that that's common knowledge. So nobody teaches them. So they don't know how to make the margins move. And I'm like, oh, I learned that in high school.
Yes. Well, thank you for that today. If there is there anything else you'd like to leave with our audience today?
I think just if you are lucky enough to have in your life these opportunities to learn about difference and what it means, then embrace it because it will help you grow as a person.
Well, thank you for that. That's a wonderful piece of advice, and I'm glad that Dr. Jim's been able to join us again today on my 100th episode, and we will see you again tomorrow on Show and Tell Saturdays, and we'll get to learn a little bit more about her business and how she helps her students. So thank you again, Kim, and we will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thank you.